Show.
Welcome to Tom Rhodes Radio Smart Camp, live from lockdown. It's another beautiful day in quarantine heaven, shall we say. Hey, I want to start out this episode by thanking some beautiful human beings that are helping a brother out. Mats in Tromsø, Norway, edited his pledge to give me $5 more a month. Peter became a golden Buddha, and Elaine just sent me a really lovely message and became a Patreon generous giver, shall we say, and was talking about how much she appreciates the heart and knowledge that I put into this podcast. And she's still working and thought she would help fuel my podcast. So thank you guys all very much. On the last episode, I had brought up The Week magazine and how Carla in Rochester turned me on to this magazine like 15, 20 years ago. And I've bought so many gift subscriptions for my mom and different close friends of mine. I love The Week magazine. And the reason I had brought it up was because there's this great thing in there. Every week it comes out and it says good week 4, bad week 4. And I wanted to read you a couple of them. This is from last week's The Week. Last week, it was a good week for safest sex, after New York City Department of Health issued an advisory recommending masturbation during the pandemic. You are your safest sex partner, the department noted. It was a good week for gorillas, with news that staff at New York City's Bronx Zoo are donating full protective gear during the pandemic, given the genetic similarities between apes and humans and the possibility of viral transmission between the two species. It was a bad week for liberation, after Britain's Daily Mail warned women that going braless for weeks while quarantined at home could damage Cooper's ligament and cause breasts to sag permanently. I read that to my girlfriend, and she vehemently disagreed with that. That she thought that breasts being liberated was good for them, not bad for them. And it was a bad week for pants, which have fallen out of fashion as white-collar workers shift to video conferencing. We're seeing increased sales in tops, but not bottoms, said Wall Street executive Dan Bartlett. People are concerned, obviously, from the waist up. And it was also a bad week for David Geffen, who deleted his Instagram account after the billionaire music mogul was widely mocked for posting that he was isolated in the Grenadines avoiding the virus. The post was illustrated with photos of Geffen's $590 million super yacht cruising alone in an azure sea as the sun sets in a blaze of color. Yeah, we hate seeing rich people rub it in our noses, don't we? You know, like we're dogs who pooped on the carpet. And then there's this cute little thing in The Week magazine also where it says, it wasn't all bad. And that's always a good thing to remember, which is why I like seeing that on the news thing, that, you know, even when things are really, really shitty in your life, or when a life-threatening virus is potentially going to wipe out the entire human race, it's good to remember that there are good things. So here's on the it wasn't all bad section. It's a little cheerful news section. It wasn't all bad. One New York City couple had a wedding to remember last week in spite of coronavirus-related restrictions. Riley Jennings and Amanda Wheeler got their marriage license just before the city's marriage bureau closed indefinitely, and then held their ceremony on an empty sidewalk to honor social distancing guidelines. The lovebirds' nuptials were officiated by their friend Matt Wilson, who leaned out of a fourth-floor window and opened with a passage from the novel Love in the Time of Cholera. After saying, "I do," to the cheers of neighbors and friends watching from a responsible distance, the brides set off for a honeymoon in their living room. Wow, isn't that lovely? And speaking of reasons to be cheerful and why things aren't all bad. I am sitting here with my darling, lovable mother, and today is her birthday. Happy 81st birthday, Mommy.
Thank you.
How was your birthday in my little apartment?
Oh, it couldn't have been better. You tried to make it so special. You had a wonderful cake with fruit on top and cream in the middle.
What a cake.
It was very good.
Vanilla layers with custard in between the layers, and then it had fresh fruit on top, and then vanilla icing with almond shavings on the outside.
It looked as good as it tasted, and it just melted in your mouth. So I was really pleased. And you got me some really cool little presents that I appreciated very much. And you've been cooking for me this whole time.
Yeah, how's your whole experience been? I mean,
well, yeah.
I think everybody knows by now. I told the story on the last episode that you were visiting me last month when this all hit, and that was really fortunate for us because we decided you should stay here and ride it out with me. Otherwise, you would have been alone in Florida, and I would have been alone here.
It couldn't have been planned, so it was really great that I was visiting because then I could stay here and, in a way, I've been pampered this whole time. I had no idea you were such a good cook, and that is really good to know.
Well, I think it's really beautiful because you and I have, we've had such a great relationship. Everybody who knows me knows how much I love my mother. And you visited me when I lived in San Francisco. We went to Yosemite a few times.
Yes.
You visited me in LA a few times when I had the sitcom. When I lived in Amsterdam, you came there. And then we went to Jerusalem.
Yeah, I've gotten to travel around the world because of you, visiting you and you showing me the sights. So even though we're sort of stuck here, we've gotten a rhythm to our days, trying not to be on top of each other. We separate when we need to and come together when we need to. And I really appreciate that. There's so much to do in your house because you like books as much as I do. You got a whole wall of books and music, and we've gotten into a routine where you play music in the morning, and so we have breakfast with music.
Breakfast with music, and then we read.
Yeah.
Then I work for a few hours. You work on your stuff, and then we watch art documentaries, and then I'll make dinner, and then we usually watch a movie. And this episode, I wanted to go over all the movies. I've been writing down the list of all the movies we've been watching, and just give our opinions and how we felt about it. We've had some turds, and we've had some winners.
Yes, we have.
But I just want to say that you're the best possible person I could have wished to spend this global virus lockdown with. So
I kind of feel the same way, that we both are interested in about the same things, more or less. And so it gives us an opportunity to read and listen to records and watch movies. And we also are playing Scrabble, and you've always beaten me because you do have a bigger vocabulary than I do. But
we played 14 games and you've won 3.
Yeah, but
you're gaining steam, though.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
I am. I can see progress.
And I think
progress.
you've learned my little tricks.
Yes,
you played QI last game, and ER is a good word.
Yeah,
you got to know the little
OXO is a word. There were a few things that we challenged each other on. Usually, when you challenge me, my spelling is bad. So anyway, and then you have to lose a turn, which is kind of cool. Anyway. I am getting better, so I feel better about beating you. I do a little happy dance when I beat you. So that's always cool.
Yeah, and we've got to. You love Joseph Prince. I remember you were here last September, and then he was in L.A. in October. We got to go to see Joseph Prince together.
Yes, that was an adventure.
And then you came here for Christmas. Oh my God! And we had that crazy story after Christmas. On December 27th, I had a gig in a winery in Carmel.
Yes.
And the day after Christmas, I rented a car, and I thought, you've never driven up the California coast, and I thought this would be really nice. And then we left, and there was snow at the Grapevine on Interstate 5, so all the traffic had been diverted to the 101. So from Ventura to Santa Barbara, it's 100 miles, and it was bumper-to-bumper traffic, and it was absolutely miserable.
Never in my life have I been on bumper-to-bumper traffic for 100 miles. It was grueling.
Like inching, literally.
Inching. And you could see to the right the truckers with their big rigs having to stop on the sides. And good grief, you could almost see smoke coming up from their trucks. It was really an awful experience. I never saw anything like it in my life.
Yeah, it was just one semi-truck after another parked on the side. They obviously had given up or were sleeping or playing video games until everything cleared up.
Well, it didn't look like it was ever going to clear up.
And then we got to Santa Barbara, and then I forget where we tried to get a hotel, but we couldn't find. There was no hotels for like 100 miles or something after Santa Barbara. And I know where we slept in the parking lot in my car at the Madonna Inn in San Luis Obispo. And the Madonna Inn is a really cool old. It's kind of tacky, but it's really charming. It's been there forever, and I've stayed there a couple times through the years. But like that's a place I would have always wanted to take you, and we couldn't get a room.
That was another experience I never experienced before, sleeping in a car.
And you're the last person I would ever want to put through that.
And it was like 30 degrees.
It was freezing.
At night. So that was an experience I really...
So we only slept for, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours.
It wasn't much.
And then we got up and we had breakfast, and then we went to the coast from there. And if we hadn't slept in the car, we never would have seen, because I told my mom, we're going to stop at every vista point along the way. And it wasn't a vista point, but we saw there was a bunch of surfers and cars with surf racks on it. It looked like people were surfing in the water. And we wanted to just get out and take pictures of the surfers, but they had these elephant seals. And they were massive. And I never even knew such a creature existed before.
Yeah, I've seen them before in movies or in films or something, but I never saw them up close and personal. They seemed to go pretty slow, and you were getting awfully close with your trying to take wonderful pictures of them. I was getting a little nervous.
I took some wonderful pictures.
Yeah, you did. And we were really close to these animals, and it was amazing. It really was amazing. And it was early in the morning, and a great experience. We took some great photos.
It was beautiful. So I'm thrilled that you're here, Mom. Who knows how longer this is going to last? And
hopefully not too much longer. But we're doing well.
Yeah, we're doing great. I'm glad we're together. And, the combat preparedness that I take every time I go out.
Yes.
And, getting us enough groceries to stay in for a week or two.
Yeah.
And then all these hundreds of movies that I have on DVD, I've finally got a chance to watch them, and I'm watching these movies with my mom. So here is the list of all the movies that we have watched so far. We're not going to talk about any of the TV things, or we'll do that another episode, and the books that you've read, we'll do that another time. This is just the movies that I have watched with my mom since this whole lockdown started. I think starting, somewhere around March 12th or 13th, somewhere around there. So this is a month of all the movies that we've watched.
Okay.
So we started out, number one was Treasure of Sierra Madre with Humphrey Bogart. Mm-hmm. And you watch this movie and you see what a brilliant actor Humphrey Bogart was. He goes through so many ranges of emotions in it. And then he's obsessed by greed and vengeance, and he's angry, he's crying. That movie alone, I think, made his career.
He was really great at it. It had a bad ending for him, but it had a message. It was a movie with a message. I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was great. The only thing, some of these old movies that we've watched have got some dated racial stereotypes. Like the Mexican people didn't look, because the movie takes place in Mexico.
Right.
Like I liked first they're in Tampico. They're starting out, and he doesn't have a job. He wants to get out of there. I liked how that started in the port city, and the guy's shining shoes. This rich guy gives him money. He keeps eating off of it. I don't want to give it away, but then they go out into the Mexican countryside, and he's on a train, and then all these Mexican bandits like rob the train, or they're trying to rob it. There was a few things like that, but I think we both liked Treasure of Sierra Madre,
yes,
right?
Yes, it was a good one.
Okay, so that's 2 thumbs up.
Yes.
I guess that was Siskel and Ebert. Should we do something else? What's a happy gesture? We liked it. Okay, and then the next movie we saw was Asphalt Jungle, which was that John Huston. I think John Huston made that movie, and I think it was Marilyn Monroe's first movie.
She was in it, and she must have been really young, but she was so beautiful. She just had a small part, but I was remembering how beautiful she was.
Yeah, I enjoyed that flick, and we went to a lot of crime movies at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So we both liked that. Then the next movie we watched was Stanley Kubrick's The Killing. Remember where they have they do the heist at the racetrack?
Oh yes,
and the guy shoots the horse.
That was interesting.
That was
an interesting movie, and it was a pretty good movie.
Love that movie, and suspenseful, and then the ending was a shock. I won't give away the ending,
right?
But I love Stanley Kubrick, and I wanted to show you that movie. After that, we did What About Bob, the Bill Murray movie, where Richard Dreyfuss is his psychiatrist.
Oh, yes, that was...
You remember? And he's got the goldfish around his neck.
It was kind of funny.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
My sister Laura and I loved that movie, and that's why I wanted to show it to you. And Laura and I used to always say, "I'm sailing. I'm really sailing."
That was kind of funny.
That's from that movie. And then we watched Tropic Thunder. Do you remember that, where they're making the Vietnam movie?
I'm glad you're reminding me of all this stuff, because it's all gotten
we watched so many
together, all lumped together in my brain.
Robert Downey Jr. is such a great actor. He gets his skin darkened so he can play this black character, but he's actually an Australian actor. It was really, really funny movie, and there was watching a lot of these movies with my mom. I realized how much like sex and violence.
Yes, because
it was like they were doing this like parody of Vietnam movies, and like there's lots of blood.
Yes, and it's kind of embarrassing to watch a sexual scene with your son.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling, Mom. It's for son with a mother. It's not enjoyable either to watch some steamy sex scene.
It's a good thing nobody was looking, because we were both red.
But it seems like every movie and every TV show has had something in it.
That's... either that or some terrible violent scene that is upsetting.
Well, for me, the best laugh, and I remember Laura told me about Tropic Thunder when it came out. You got to see this movie; it's so funny. For me, the best laugh at the end, Ben Stiller, he's being held captive by these people in the, heroin processing plant, and there was the little boy, and he says they're all leaving on the helicopter, and he goes, "No, I've really made a connection with this kid. He's my son. I have to go back for him." And then they're all getting on the helicopter, and he goes back. And then, like a minute later, he comes running back. "I was wrong. Don't leave me."
The kid was
and
trying to kill him.
The little kid is hanging on his back. He got an arm around his neck, and he's stabbing him with a knife in the back.
Yeah, that was, jeez.
Then we watched The Outlaw Josey Wales, the Clint Eastwood classic.
Yes, I love Clint Eastwood. He's really good.
And he was spitting the tobacco juice.
Yes, good
on
grief.
everything.
Every time he did that, right before he shoots everybody, it was great.
Gotta love Clint Eastwood. But I didn't. He was like a Confederate soldier in that.
Yeah.
And then they made the Yankees look like
pretty bad.
Bad people.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I think it was like the history of like Missouri. Missouri was kind of an in-between state where they would first the Confederates would run there, and it was not good for the people that lived there, and then the others would come in, and it was always a bad scene for the settlers.
Yeah, my favorite scene is that copy of that film, unfortunately, was not a good copy, and it skipped my favorite scene where the young guy who's with him is talking about his mother or his father taught him how to embroider roses on shirts, and he was singing "Yellow Rose of Texas," and then he kills these two guys who are trying to claim the bounty on Clint Eastwood. So, anyway. One day maybe you'll see a better copy of that film.
Yeah, but it was a really good film anyway. Even if we did have to fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, not all these DVDs are in the best quality, but it's good to finally get to watch all of them. And then I showed you one of my favorite movies of all time, Sexy Beast, with Ray Winston, the British guy, and
yeah, that was bloody.
They're living in Spain.
Yeah, good.
They're
grief.
friends, and then what's his name? Gandhi, Ben Kingsley. Plays the opposite of Gandhi. He's like remember that? He wants him to come back to London and do the job. He wouldn't take no for an answer.
Had a very nasty part.
What an asshole. And then speaking of things that are uncomfortable to watch with your mom, the bad guy in the film, Teddy Best, Mr. Black Magic is his name. He's at some swingers thing, and he has sex with some old banker guy. And I'm sitting there watching it with my mom, and I'm like, oh, shit. Well, I shouldn't have told her this one was my favorite, maybe.
Jeez. Well,
but I think it's a love story.
Yeah, well,
it disguised as a criminal film. Like when he's back in London, and he calls his girlfriend, and he says, "I love you like a rose loves rainwater. I love you like a leopard loves his partner in the jungle." Because he knows that he doesn't know if he's going to get killed. He doesn't know if this is the last time he's ever talking to her. I love that.
There was a big connection between the two, husband and wife. I thought that part was nice, but there was a lot of violence.
And then when Ben Kingsley's saying to him that she's a whore, and of all the women you should have married, you could have been with, and you chose this whore.
That was awful.
And he just goes, "I love her with all my heart." It chokes me up.
Well,
I love that film.
It had some good points for the movie.
And then we watched. Then I think we really started off with some really great films, and then we watched an unwatchable turd by Mel Brooks called "History of the World Part 1."
Oh yeah, that was awful.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I like Mel Brooks.
It was an unforgettable movie for sure.
Mel Brooks did Blazing Saddles, The Producers.
I did see that. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful things. And then History of the World, and there was it was a big budget movie. There were so many, you talk about like dated things, like he's in ancient Rome, and then he's a stand-up philosopher. And then his agent gets him a gig to play at the palace, at Caesar's palace. Get it? So he gets to play for Caesar. And he starts off, he's got some good jokes and everybody's laughing. Oh, and then Caesar has this gay guy who's fanning him. And Caesar's played by Dom DeLuise, who was a rotund individual. And so Mel Brooks, the stand-up philosopher, starts doing fat jokes. And it's not going good. And Dom DeLuise, the plump Caesar, is getting upset. And he knows he's dying. And then he did a joke where only the gay guy fanning the Caesar laughed. And then Mel Brooks looks into the camera and he goes, well, the little faggot got it. And it was like, oh my God. That was like so politically incorrect by today's standards, you know? Oh, and then, and then it was so many dick jokes.
Yeah.
It was like not even 10th grade humor, because 10th grade humor was pretty sophisticated compared to this. Like when he's the French Revolution, and they're showing the French kings. He's a French king, and it's all he wants to squeeze a titty. And then they had a chess set with real human beings on it, and then he said everybody gang raped the queen, and then everybody, it was like, what? Was this funny in 1974 or whenever this came out? It was like, it was so not funny, and it was one dick joke after another. I thought that was one of the biggest pieces of shit that has ever been made by Hollywood.
It wasn't the best.
Okay, so after History of the World Part 1, oh my God, then we watch it. So I bought a lot of movies, you know. This one I just bought for the title. I knew nothing about it. I think this was a Swedish film. And I bought it just because of the title. And I never got around to watching it. And unfortunately, I inflicted this excruciating pain on you. The film is called A Pigeon Sat on a Branch, Reflecting on Existence.
Yes, we tried to figure out what exactly the movie was trying to say, but it went from bad to worse.
It was so boring.
I could not figure out what they really wanted to say.
Well, I mean, even with artsy existentialist license, there was no point to it, and it was.
I never did figure it.
It just was really stupid, and stay away from that movie at all costs. So we had two really terrible turd movies after that. So I thought, let's go with a winner, and we watched The Lion King.
Yes, that was
Disney.
fun. Yeah.
And
sometimes you have to go back to a kid's show just to recuperate from some other shows that are trying to say something that you don't quite get.
I would say The Lion King is my favorite Disney movie. And
it has a good message.
And I was living in New York City 98, 99 when it came on Broadway, and it was the first Broadway show I had ever seen. And then at the beginning, all these people dressed like animals, they came down the aisles.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're all singing, and I remember I got like misty. I thought it was so beautiful. So I really...
The songs were great. You know, Disney has some really good songs.
Yeah. Hakuna Matata. It means no worries.
Yeah, it was good.
And then we watched a documentary that I love, and I knew you would love it, and it's called Finding Vivian Maier. If you haven't seen this film, watch this film.
A famous photographer.
Or she wasn't famous in her lifetime.
Well, no, but she is now. Or
this guy bought a trunk full of her negatives at some auction in Chicago, and that's how he discovered her after she died. And this woman was a nanny to all these different families. And she used to go around Chicago and take pictures of all kinds of different stuff. People in ghettos, people in alleys, people in pool halls. And she would bring the children on little field trips.
Yes, it was that part was a little odd. The woman was a little eccentric, but she would always carry a camera and would take pictures, from an angle that you didn't suspect she was taking a picture, but she was a real good
Oh yeah,
photographer.
you hold it
Yes,
down and you
it
look through
was
the
down,
top, so
and,
people didn't know she was taking a picture.
You weren't aware that she was taking pictures, but the odd thing was that she really wasn't taking that well care of the children. She was, even though she was supposed to be this nanny, nobody seemed to keep her very long. But at the end, well, you don't want to give everything up, but some of the kids that had grown up took care of her. It was an interesting movie.
Yeah, it was nice. It was some kids that were saying she was a little crazy, and then these two sons that she took care of her and paid her rent later in life.
Conflicting opinions of her as a person, but nobody doubted that she was a good photographer.
Brilliant photographer. I love her stuff. And if you've never seen that movie, see Finding Vivian Maier.
It's black and white. Her films.
A lot of it. Some of them were in color.
It was great though. That was a good movie.
And then we watched a movie from the year you were born, 1939, with Cary Grant, called Only Angels Have Wings. Remember the black and white movie? And where were they? Somewhere in the Caribbean or South America, and they're flying these planes.
Oh yes.
They were flying mail
into
around
the jungle. Yes, it was.
And they're drinking and they're flying planes in the middle of the night.
That was a pretty good movie, for that time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. For 1939 standards, it was pretty cool with the special effects of how they showed planes flying over mountains and crashing
that
and
was
stuff.
Pretty interesting. And those planes, you just wonder how people used to get into those planes and fly. You'd have to be pretty brave.
Yeah. So I think we both liked that. We both hated History of the World. We both hated Pigeon Sat on a Branch. We both loved Lion King, Finding Vivian Maier, and even though I thought it was a cool movie. Only Angels Have Wings. So the next film we watched was Fistful of Dollars, the Clint Eastwood movie.
I like his movies.
I know you love Clint Eastwood. And I still have more Clint Eastwood movies for us to watch, but yeah, that was great. There was the wimpy husband with the hot wife and the little kid. Remember the bad guys?
Yeah. It's violent in spots, but I like happy endings where people win. So it had a good ending also.
Why is it you think you prefer happy endings? I mean, that's very...
I like happy endings.
Because when I lived with the Natalie, the French woman, she would always say, I mean, and you'll hear Americans love happy endings.
I do.
In their movies.
Well, I want to, a movie could have some problems that maybe everyone has, and then the problems are solved, and then it's a happy ending. Because the problem is solved, whatever the problem was.
And you want to feel good when you go out for entertainment.
And you don't want to, like...
You don't be confused
a movie
and
that
pissed off like we were after a pigeon sitting on a branch.
A couple of those type movies, yeah. Like, what was that about? But
yeah, like History of the World Part 1, we were like, God, why did we waste an hour of our life, hour and a half, watching that?
Yeah, that's the thing. And you want a movie that you can talk about after you leave. That makes you want to think, what was the movie trying to say, But I like happy endings, even if it's, I don't know, kind of childish. I like a happy ending. Although
I think we could all use a happy ending now.
I've enjoyed
Who
movies.
wants to see existential angst and everybody dying now?
Well, I don't want to see any virus movies now, for sure.
Well, that's the thing about this whole... I never saw any of those virus movies, so
I'm not going to see it.
I don't know how this all turns out.
This whole thing. No. Oh, good.
So then we watched. It's one of my favorite books by John Fonte, and I think they did a pretty decent job with the movie with Selma Hayek. It's called Ask the Dust. Remember the young guys? He moves to L.A. and he's trying to be a writer, and he's only eating oranges.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland is his neighbor, who tells him to steal the milk, and it's buttermilk. Remember that?
Yeah, right.
And then there was a really steamy sex scene in that where they're like skinny dipping and everything. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot this was in there. But I liked that movie.
It didn't have a happy ending, but
No,
it was okay. It was well done, interesting, you know. I don't always have to have a happy ending. I just have to have an interesting
I like the way they
movie.
showed Los Angeles in the 20s, where there was this great... Los Angeles used to have the best mass transportation system in the world in like the 1920s. And there were trolleys that went all over the city, like San Francisco has the trolleys.
Right.
And they were all over LA, and you could go from downtown all the way to the beach. You could go all over the city on these trolleys, but they ripped up all the trolley tracks and built the highways.
Yeah, when I lived in Washington, D.C. in the 50s, they had trolleys.
That was like that everywhere. That must have been charming.
It was really cool, I thought, because they were like, they would be in the middle of the street where it didn't interfere with traffic on both sides, you know, where the grass normally is. That's where the trolleys were.
Mm-hmm.
Except downtown, of course.
The next movie we watched with Robert De Niro is The Mission, where he's the slave hunter, and then he kills his brother, and then he
It was a period piece.
he joins the Jesuit order. It's based on a true story. It's where the Iguazu Falls were. Everything above the falls, they had, you know, people who never even been to South America drew the borders, and the Portuguese take over, and you know, these Jesuits or monks or whatever they were, they get the natives to come out of the forest, the jungle, and become Christians, and they make this perfect community, this church, and they're all working and raising bananas and everything, and they're making profit and money, but none of them take any money. They all put it back into the they had this perfect,
it was a communal
Christian community, and they're singing in the church, and
but they were competition to the Spanish people, and they didn't like that. The competition, they were doing better than the other people, because the other people had slave labor and they didn't. It was, you were working for yourself, so it was way better. But that did not have a happy ending, and it was a really good picture.
That was a great film, but then, you know, we've been watching these movies, and then, you know, you'll go to bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock every night. So it's like right after we watch the movie. So at the end of that film, the Portuguese army comes in, and then they just ruthlessly slaughter all these natives who had become Christians, and then they're still walking with the cross and singing.
They weren't even armed, and they killed them all.
Women and children, and I was like, oh shit, that wasn't the best thing to see right before bed. You know?
Yeah, that was, but it was a really good picture. I did enjoy it, even though it was not a happy ending.
I love that film so much. I actually watched the director's commentary once, where they show the film, and then the director he talks about all the different shots and the symbolism, like where Robert De Niro's, after he kills his brother, he's so heartbroken and remorseful over it. He's like trying to climb up beside the waterfall with all of his armor on the back, and it kept falling, and the guy talks about all the symbolism in it.
It was like penance.
Yeah.
And then I thought the cool part was the Indian cut the rope to the garbage that he was carrying to set him free.
Released him from his burden.
Yeah. It was a really good picture. It had a lot of, I think that's what I like, a lot. Said a lot. Had a message. And it was excellent. And I did, when I went to South America, went to Argentina, and that was my old country. And so we went to Iguazu Falls, and you got to see it up close and personal. And it was a beautiful place, very big. The falls were fantastic. So I was there, and it was like history. They talked about it there.
Did you ever hear the famous quote from Eleanor Roosevelt when she went to Iguazu Falls? She said,
I think I did something about, poor Niagara.
"Oh, poor Niagara."
It is bigger than Niagara. Yeah, it's like never ending, but it's really interesting.
So after the mission, I'd say my I'd say Sexy Beast is probably like my third favorite movie, but number one and number two, we watched True Romance, and then we watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I'd say those are Willy Wonka is my number one. I'd say True Romance is number two. Sexy Beast number three. True Romance is like super violent, but I wanted you to see it because I love this film so much. And again, it's a crime thriller movie, but there's this love story throughout it, you know? I am not. And then she says to him after she hooks up with him in the beginning, she said, I am not damaged goods. I am not what they call Florida white trash. I have been a call girl exactly for 3 days, and you're my second client, something like that. I get misty every time I see that scene. Her declaration of her own self-worth to him.
It was a violent movie, but I guess you could call it a happy ending at the end.
It was a happy ending. They end up in Mexico with the kid, and his eyes shot out.
Yeah, so it was interesting.
What did you think of that famous scene with Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper, where he wants to know?
Oh, that was disturbing, you know. But the guy knew he was going to get killed, so he insulted the main mafia type person, and the mafia guy shot him, which was a lot easier than the torture they were starting to do on him. Yeah, it was, I don't particularly like those type scenes, but, it probably is the way those people act towards each other. If they want to find out something, they'll torture you and then kill you afterwards.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Stay out of the drug trafficking world, I would say. So did you like the movie?
Yeah, it was pretty good, actually. Overall, I would say the bad parts, the good parts outdid the bad parts. So overall, I had a better feeling after the movie.
Well, I like that he's such an Elvis fan, and that Elvis keeps appearing to him in these different situations, and that Elvis is giving him advice.
That was kind of fun.
And then at the end of the advice, he always goes, I like you, Clarence. Always have, always will.
That was kind of his imagination run wild.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Beautiful film. And then my favorite number one film of all time, the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And every frame of that movie is brilliant. The story is so good. Charlie's living with the two grandparents. Two sets of grandparents are bedridden.
Yes,
it couldn't be more poor and miserable. And he says to his mom, I'm tired of cabbage water for dinner every night. They're having cabbage water for dinner.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I saw that movie. I took the kids to see that movie when it first came out.
1971, so I was 4.
I didn't remember it at all, I think. I remembered maybe a couple of songs because the kids just loved that movie. And seeing it again, it was like seeing it for the first time. It was pretty creative and interesting. And it did have a story. It almost overdid it with the poorness, but
Gene Wilder is so brilliant
he really was
as Willy
very
Wonka.
good. Yeah.
I hated the remake with Johnny Depp. I thought, how dare they even attempt it? And then Johnny Depp tried to do this like Michael Jackson voice.
I did not see that.
It was
remake.
terrible. And then the Oompa Loompas were not little people. It was one normal sized guy who had been shrunken down through special effects, and then they just duplicated that same guy.
Huh.
You know, and the thing I thought was like, imagine you're a little person actor in Hollywood, and you read in the trades they're going to remake Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Hey, we're going to work. We're going to get work. And then they don't even... and then they didn't even have... I love that film so much, and I've thought about it in my life. There's been times in my life where I dirtied up the ceiling in the Fizzy Lift It room, and I had to give back my everlasting gobstopper to make everything okay.
I remember that scene.
With him and Uncle Charlie.
But I didn't see the remake, so I can't make any comparisons. But it was interesting looking at it now, years later. I didn't remember much of the other one.
Veruca Salt. What a little bitch she was.
All those little kids were awful, except the hero.
I want a golden egg machine, Daddy. I want it now.
They were all awful, except for that one little kid.
And that we looked at the DVD extras. The kid that played Charlie in that film, that's the only film he's ever been in. He
was really good.
I wonder what happened to that guy. But I think it's interesting. If you're going to have one film credit, why not it be the greatest film of all time?
He really was good at it. So I'm surprised that he didn't do anymore, but maybe it was his choice and maybe his parents.
Yeah, I mean, he had a taste of show business and didn't want anything to do with it. And then we watched a cute film called Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Oh, yeah, that
with
was
Steve
different.
Carell and Keira Knightley. And I knew nothing about that film. I just thought it was a cute title. And so an asteroid is coming to the Earth. The film opens with the space shuttle blew up, and that was our one chance to stop the asteroid, and everybody's got 2 weeks to live, something like that. And so the story that unfolds of the end of the world.
It was a really good story. Bad ending, of course, but it was.
I thought
it really did, like the ending they expected happened, but the story was really good.
I thought it was a cute love story, especially under today's circumstances of, everybody in the world is experiencing the same thing right now. Everybody's staying in, everybody's nervous, everybody's, trying to be vigilant and do all they can to keep the shit out of their life. I thought it was interesting, the concept that the world is going to end in 2 weeks, and
people were doing pretty much the same thing they were always doing. He just happened to find the love of his life at the last moment.
The last minute.
But at least he found her.
So I liked that movie. I thought that was a good film.
Yeah.
And then we watched the Martin Sheen movie The Way.
Oh, that was great.
And it was directed by his son, Emilio Estevez, who's also in the film. The son is going to do that religious pilgrimage across the French Pyrenees, across the top of Spain. What was it? The Apostle James supposedly ended up on the coast in Spain. So it's this religious pilgrimage.
It was a really interesting movie. And I thought it was a very happy movie. I mean, not wonderfully happy because
his son dies, and then he never travels. Forget what was he? He was a dentist or something like that.
Yeah, he was a dentist,
and
his son wanted him to travel with him, but he didn't. And then the son dies, and so he goes to reclaim the body, and he decides to do the pilgrimage. and I had read about the pilgrimage before, so I was kind of interested in seeing that. Supposedly, people that do this pilgrimage changes their lives, and it could take a couple of months to do it, because you do it more or less on your own, and you're walking. Well, most of them were walking. You could maybe ride a bike or something, but it was really a good movie. I enjoyed it very much.
I liked it. Oh, wow. And then I thought this was an art documentary, but then it turned out to be a movie. It was called Mr. Turner. And it was about Turner, the famous British painter, who, you know, I've been in the Tate Modern Museum in London. I've seen his stuff. I've seen it at the Met in New York City. I think in Philadelphia, the Museum of Art has the burning of Parliament. Parliament caught on fire.
Beautiful paintings.
And then there's the famous, and I told you on my sitcom, there was this episode where Stephen Tobolowsky, the principal, he gets into photography, and he's on the roof, and it's raining. And it was one of my favorite scenes we ever filmed, because we did it in the studio, but they had these trucks outside full of water, and they set up these sprinklers where it looked like rain, and you're in the studio, and you know, we're filming this roof scene, and I'm telling him to come off the roof, and he says, "Tom, the artist Turner strapped himself to the front of his ship so he could paint the eye of a storm better." And so, like, I was fascinated, like, oh, I want to learn about the life of Turner, because he seemed like such a dedicated artist, and he's done all these famous things. And then we watched this movie, Mr. Turner.
It was a dumb thing to do, because he tied himself to a mast and was out there and got pneumonia from doing that, so he was very sick.
Yeah, it turned out to be a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, it was a stupid thing to do.
But he was such a rotten human being, like a weird guy.
Yep.
Wasn't classy at all. Then he had a servant maid who I think had some kind of mental issues, and then he
had a lot of problems.
Yeah, he forcibly, he raped her, and he just was not a pleasant person, and we couldn't wait for this guy to die.
The movie seemed to go on and on and on and on, and it showed him in such a bad light. He was such a bad person, a human being, that I couldn't put the two together. What wonderful paintings he did, and the terrible person that he was, and they kept going on and on. And we both started saying, "I don't know when he'll die."
I hope he dies soon.
That's awful.
And then when he died, we cheered, we clapped. That's how happy.
It was like, maybe also because we saw it at the end of the night, we were just tired, and this thing seemed to go on, and you couldn't put the guy in a worse light. I guess that it was true that he really was that bad, but yeah, we couldn't wait for him to die. That's all. That's a terrible thing to say.
Well, then we had. Well, it's true. I mean, it was.
I wonder how true
we both we like Turner less now.
Yeah.
And I think we both liked Turner before we saw that movie.
Oh, we thought his paintings were wonderful. Of course, it has nothing to do with the paintings. He just happened to be not a nice person as a human, and it's interesting.
Britain's most loved painter.
I know. We've been watching a lot of documentaries, and a lot of these people, as people, they were not that wonderful. But their paintings were great. But as people, they were losers completely.
Well, and then on the films, then we get into like another bad string of movies here. From after Turner, Mr. Turner, we watched this film called 1900. And somebody had told me that it was about a guy on a ship who plays piano, and the ship is just going all over the world, and the guy's a piano player. And I thought, oh, that'll be a happy movie to watch with my mom. And the movie 1900 is about these peasants in Italy. And they're the poorest people, and Burt Lancaster plays like the landowner guy. He's an asshole.
They had
He's
a
an
lot of-
out-of-touch rich douche.
They had a lot of famous people in this movie, and honestly, we ended up just cutting the movie off because
We stopped it after about an hour, and it's just this, like,
it was awful.
these poor peasants, they've got nothing, and
We're waiting for something to happen, and it never happened.
But the whole time I'm watching the film, I'm thinking to myself, when did they go on the ship and the guy start playing piano?
Yeah,
It never happened.
It must have been another movie.
It was another movie. So yeah, we hated 1900 so much we stopped it. I don't even know if we made it an hour.
Oh, for sure we made it an hour. We were trying to give it, all these famous people were in this movie.
Donald Sutherland.
You just figured,
Robert De Niro.
that it's gonna turn out to be fairly decent at the end. Well, I don't know if it did uplift after we quit watching it, but I thought we gave it more than enough time to turn. And it didn't.
Never turned. It definitely wasn't. I don't think there was a happy ending on that flick.
Well, it didn't look like it.
Yeah, I think after Burt Lancaster hung himself, then we said, fuck this movie.
Yeah, that was it. Although, there was a question about whether he actually hung himself. Or maybe someone helped him hang himself. I don't know.
But the movie was so bad, you didn't really...
It was so bad, I didn't care.
And then we attempted to watch the 1950s film, The Agony and the Ecstasy, about the painter Michelangelo, starring Charlton Heston. And you know what I loved about the film? It started out with these great shots in Italy of all the things that Michelangelo had done. There's like an aerial shot going around the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. And they were talking about the design and just the great works of Michelangelo. And then they showed, Madonna and Child, some of his sculptures, and David. It's like a little 10-minute opening I enjoyed. But the film, I couldn't watch it because Charlton Heston, he's constantly agitated and he's yelling the whole movie, and then he's yelling at he was yelling at everybody.
He didn't want to be a painter.
Well, I just thought it was a bad.
But maybe that's how it happened.
I thought it was badly acted by Charlton Heston.
And I like him as an actor.
I liked him. I think Omega Man would be a good film to watch now, which
What's that one about?
I think he's in L.A. and he's like the last man left on Earth, and he's got to fight some zombie monsters. 70s film.
Doesn't sound all that great.
No, we'll stay away from that. And then I know you hated this next film, Nebraska, with Bruce Dern. He's the old guy who thinks he's in Billings, Montana, and he thinks he won $1 million.
Yeah, that was...
And he wants to go to Lincoln, Nebraska and collect his million.
It wasn't that I hated it. Actually, it had a pretty good ending. I mean, it was one of those that we were trying to give it a break and see if it would turn. And it did at the very end. But it was like picturing the people in the middle of the country as being so terribly uninteresting. They had nothing to say to each other. And I just, I thought it was, like the movies we saw where they acted like the Mexicans were stupid. They acted like the Middle America people were stupid and were so uninteresting. They had nothing to say to each other. They just sat there and watched television. But at the end, it really did have a good story. What it was trying to say was that the son really loved the father and went out of his way to help him, even though the father believed in something that was not true, like, oh, you won the lottery kind of thing. And he really didn't win the lottery. Everybody knew that he didn't win the lottery, but the son was trying to protect him.
Yeah, he gets one of those dumb sweepstakes letters.
Yeah.
You may have won $1 million.
You have won. All you have to do is show up. And everybody knows not true. But the son tried to try to help him. You know, he tried to keep the guy's dignity. And at the end, well, that's giving the whole thing away. You'd have to see it if you could get through everybody sitting there watching television sections, which was most of the movie.
Well, when it gets to the end, you realize that having a son or a child who loves you is more important than $1 million.
Right.
That's pretty much the point of the film.
Yeah. And
it just took a long way to get there.
They didn't have to drag it out that long, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it would have been a way shorter movie had they done that. It might have been a fourth of the movie had they done that. But
I think every film should have Iron Man come in and just fix everything. I think every film should be 10 minutes long. No, I don't. That's a joke.
Yeah, but that was a pretty good movie. You could hang in there.
And then we watched The Messenger, which was about Joan of Arc. And you had read the Mark Twain book about Joan of Arc. So I thought, oh, hey, a Joan of Arc story.
Yeah, that was
and then
really
it was
good.
Like super violent, and then there's
pretty bloody. Yeah,
they kill some nuns at the beginning.
It was pretty bloody.
Yeah, even and I'm watching the Joan of Arc movie, like going, oh shit, even this one with my mom is a little.
Yeah, it was, but it was a pretty good movie actually. Well done. You know, I don't really like to see hand-to-hand combat with people's bodies being cut here and there, and it was fairly graphic, but I guess it followed the story pretty well.
Well, human history is not,
It's
I mean,
not-
even in the Bible,
not
the
all
Bible
that
is
clean.
full
Yeah.
of
There were a lot of
murder
wars.
and gruesome, and
Yeah, well, there were a lot of
war is not a pleasant thing.
No, and it was all hand combat in those days.
Hand to hand.
Yeah.
And then we watched a film that I've always heard was a classic, and I always wanted to watch it. We watched Lawrence of Arabia, and I think maybe we got an hour into that and gave up on it. It was just like such long, boring,
Maybe it was longer than
sweeping
an hour.
shots. Maybe we made it. No, actually, I think we made it 2 hours. We made it to the intermission.
Okay.
Um,
There were beautiful shots, but they went on and on forever about the desert. And, I mean, how much desert can you take, I was happy to have not seen the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and then I thought like the way
I remembered
Treasure of Sierra Madre
Yeah.
made Mexican people look really cartoonish and stereotypically kind of not so smart. I thought that's what this film did for Arabic people. It made them look really.
Well, no, I didn't think it made him look that bad. But it was strange because, of course, their way of living is different from ours. But I didn't think they made him look stupid. They were
You're just tribes fighting and
fighting, yeah,
archaic.
forever. It was forever fighting. That your great
You could never organize them. They're all. I mean,
your
maybe
great grandfather fought so on this side, so naturally they were all tribal, and it was odd because they were trying. He was trying to get them together, and in the movie, I think, if I remember correctly, he did get them together and everything. I don't remember that much on the second half because I think I saw the movie when it first came out, and it was a long time ago. But he's a good actor.
Peter O'Toole, handsome. Those blue eyes on screen
Yeah.
looked great, but that film doesn't age very well either. That was just really, really tedious and boring. And then we watched a film called Paris, I Love You. And I think there was a different. I think they made like New York, I Love You. I think they made a few versions of this concept, and it was all these little short vignette pieces done by different directors.
Yeah, that was different.
And I enjoyed that film. I thought there was
It's sort of artsy.
It was artsy. There was two of them. There was the second scene was the young guy fall in love with the Arabic girl. I like that. And I didn't know it was vignettes at that point. I was like, oh, wow, this would be a good movie about these young kids. And then they never showed up in the film again until the credits at the end. But it was 2 vignettes I thought were stupid. The one with the mime
that was different.
stupid. And then there was one with Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, who falls in love with a vampire woman.
That was
You remember
weird.
that? I thought
that
those
was
2
weird.
were pretty stupid.
Yeah, but the rest of it was interesting. Some of them had a different kind of ending than you'd think. You know, you might think it's going to turn out one way and it turns out another way. But the good parts of that film actually overshadowed the bad parts of the film. I thought it was a good one.
I enjoy it. It's a feel-good rom-com type film. And then we watched a film that a film I always thought was brilliant, but I think we got a half hour into it. You just weren't feeling it. Glen Ross, about the salesman.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Alec Baldwin is the young...
A lot of famous actors, but...
Jack Lemmon.
They were, I just couldn't take the awfulness of their situation.
First prize is a Cadillac. Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired.
I just thought, I'm not going to watch this movie. And they were just awful to each other. Total abuse in the office. That's it. I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
We didn't
get on that one.
Yeah, and we didn't look at it that long. Long enough for me to just say, no, I don't think I want to watch this.
It was more bleak than I remembered it.
But if you wanted to watch it,
I just remembered it being an acting tour de force. Most of the film takes place in this one room. I thought that was cool. But the next film we watched was an Italian film, so we watched it with subtitles, called Caravaggio, about the artist Caravaggio. And I think we both love Caravaggio, so...
Actually, that movie was way better than another Caravaggio movie that I'd seen.
You're talking about the Simon Sciamma Power of Art. I love that guy who played Caravaggio.
Well,
I like them both.
Yeah, he wasn't a wonderful person, but of course his art was terrific. Another one that, you think, good grief. Beautiful art, not a nice person who did this wonderful art.
Yeah.
You almost...
you got to separate the artist from the art.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, how could nasty people make such beautiful paintings?
Yeah.
But that's how it goes, I guess.
Well, it was interesting. One of the art documentaries, how the Utrecht school, these artists from Utrecht, that were in Italy, had copied his style, and then they brought that back to Holland, and that's how Rembrandt learned about that technique of lighting and darkness and stuff. But that was in one of the art documentaries. That was not in the Caravaggio movie. So, okay, we got 2 more films left. That's a lot of movies. Let's see. What do we watch? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Okay, we'll watch 30 films.
Gosh, well, no
in
wonder
a month.
They're all...
We've been watching a movie every night.
They're all clumping together, and you have to remind me of what was that one about.
So the next one, we watched Time Bandits.
Oh, yeah.
About the little kid, and then
that was kind of
the
crazy.
little people come into his room.
Yeah.
They found some map.
That was sort of dorky.
I liked it was time travel.
Yeah, well...
I liked it because I'm reading the Napoleon book. I liked them showing Napoleon, and he's laughing at this little puppet show.
It was, well...
I like small things hitting each other.
Well, they played on Napoleon's short stature.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think we made it. That was a long film. I think we made it about an hour and a half before. I think because then they showed the devil and then God, And I
Yeah,
think
and
that's when
they lost me.
when the God character showed up. I think
When
that's
the devil character showed up, they lost me.
that's when you lost the interest.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
okay, well, so that was Time Bandits. We almost made it through that film, and then last night we closed it out with a brilliant film, Legends of the Fall, with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
What a wonderful, and I forgot so many shitty things happened in that movie.
And I didn't remember a lot of that. It's been years since I saw it.
It's in Montana.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot. I've been to Montana 4 times. I love Montana. It's so beautiful there. And the story with the father and the 3 sons. And
it had some awful shots. I mean, violence. Well, it was World War I and everything. So, but it was a good film. I mean, overall, that was a good film.
Beautiful film. And then, the one brother gets killed in World War I, and Brad Pitt is the favorite son. He's like, he's half raised by a Native American guy, and he's into,
He was more Indian than white, really.
Yeah.
And
he's like this wild jungle boy. I like that. And then Aidan Quinn plays the oldest brother, and he's done everything right his whole life. He's followed the rules. God and
they just
the Bible
all fell in love with
society and family.
Yeah.
He did everything right, but he wasn't the favorite.
Well, he didn't get the girl. That was the problem. But I mean, he married her, but he didn't really get her.
Never got her heart.
No.
And then at the end of the film, he finally wins the approval of his father. And the way he wins the approval of his father is he kills a cop. So the point of that film is if you want your father's love, you got to kill a cop.
Good grief. That wasn't the point. He was saving the sticking with the family against outsiders.
That's right. That's right.
But,
defend your family, I guess.
Defend your family. It was family. The father had tried to keep them away from the world. By being out in this ranch in the middle of nowhere. But they were anxious to get in the world, and they did.
Get in the war, yeah.
In the world.
Oh, in the world, yeah.
Yeah, and be involved in the war. They were like so many people, thinking war is, I'm going to be heroic. I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to do something big. But war is not a good thing. So
and the dad tried to tell him that the father had fought in the Civil War and the Indian Wars, and he was telling him, you don't know anything about war.
But
and they're all like they want to be heroes and shit.
Well,
they think it's a romantic novel.
It's the idea,
right? So those have been the 30 movies we've watched in the last month, Mom. I'm
glad you remembered a lot of these. It was like
I wrote them all down.
We did see some real stinkers, though.
So now the sun is starting to come in. My apartment's filling with sun. We're at the end of our little podcast episode. I think this is the first time I've ever had you on my podcast, and it's your 81st birthday. Is there any? How does it feel looking back on your life, other than that Tom Rhodes is your favorite child?
Stop that. I try not to have favorites. But I am glad that we're together during this, because we both would have been alone. And, you can be alone for a couple of weeks and it'd be okay because you got interest. But after a while, it gets a little depressive. Because we're made for company. We're made for... Humans
are social beings. Yeah, we like to interact with other human beings.
We need to interact with other people. And so this is great. It's a surprise. I was only supposed to be here a week. I've been here a month.
Yeah.
So, because we're both used to being by ourselves, it's an adjustment, but we've done real well, I think. And it's a whole we're never going to get this chance again.
No, we'll never. This is a really special time if you're with the right person. And we usually only get 1 week together at a time. And
here and there.
A lot of times I'm doing shows or...
Yeah, you're busy.
Doing other things.
Right, or it's a holiday. And
or you got, your
a
church
lot of
group
things
or things that you need to take care of.
Right.
This is explicit, unabridged time together.
Yes, and it's we've been doing well, even though you've been beating me at Scrabble almost every time.
Well, are you having a happy birthday?
I am having a happy birthday, a real happy birthday. So
I got you
thank
nice
you.
Presents from what I could find in the
And
neighborhood.
it looks like you're going to make a really nice dinner, and I'm going to break down and have a glass of wine.
Filet mignons from Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
It's only $20 for two.
That's
And I got
pretty
some
good.
golden beet salad from Whole Foods, and then maybe some green beans or something.
Can't wait to
I
eat
couldn't
it.
be happier with that cake.
Yeah. Oh,
we
that
had.
cake was really. It looked as good as it tasted. So.
And I really thought of everything when I went out yesterday and all these things, and I even remembered birthday candles. And then I couldn't find them.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been so upset over it. It's
Oh
okay.
my God!
I mean, 81
I almost wanted to
candles.
risk my life and go back out today
no.
just to get these candles, but
No.
you wouldn't let me.
81 candles would set fire to this
So I
place.
just had one candle on the.
That was
on the thing.
enough.
I was talking to my girlfriend last night, and she was telling me that she loves trick birthday candles, that the candles that won't go out. She just thinks that that's hilarious. And I said, imagine the guy who invented the candles that wouldn't go out. He thought, oh my God, I've made my name, my mark. My family will be remembered forever. What a revolutionary concept. It'll help millions of countless people. The candle that never goes out. And the only way they can be sold is as trick birthday candles.
Not sure how that would help.
The guy thought he was going to be immortal. And then
Yeah.
he only lives on in pranksters' birthdays. So anyway, all the sunlight's beautiful. We got hummingbirds coming on the balcony once in a while. I love every day we've been watching the sunset.
Yes, that's been great.
That's been our another little ritual to our
Right.
daily structure. And
And we try to exercise in here, which is nice. You have to keep your body up.
yeah, you've been exercising. I've been pretty lethargic, I think. I mean, I've been working on my stuff, but I haven't been moving as much. So maybe we'll try and do yoga. Maybe we'll, and we
I've
wanted to
never
also
did
maybe
that.
try and learn to play chess.
Yeah, that's another thing
Because I have these beautiful
Yeah,
chessboards, but
right.
neither one of us know how to play.
Yeah, it's time.
It's time. Okay, Mom, in closing, is there any words of wisdom or advice that you'd like to give to the people of the earth?
Good heavens. Well, just
That's how I end my interviews.
Oh,
Have you ever
really?
heard that?
No.
I end every interview with that question.
Well, I can't think of anything other than, the older you get, the more you sort people out and you get to know who your real friends are when you're going through trouble. So spend more time with your real friends and less time with people that aggravate you.
That's brilliant advice. I think now is the time. I think people are, especially people who are stuck in situations and with people that they're unhappy with or people that irritate them or get on their nerves. I think a lot of people are reassessing their lives right now, their lives of, I think a lot of people are going to be cleaning house
Well,
after
I
this is
hope
over.
that when they're together that they can at least talk about their problems and resolve some stuff that they had not resolved before. It's a good time to do that. Of course, with children running around screaming and you trying to do two things at once.
Trying to work from home
Trying
and
to
then your
work from
kids
home
there.
and
Oh
take
my
care
God.
of your kids. That's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
They must be selling a lot of aspirin right now.
It's hard.
Mom, today's your 81st birthday. I'm grateful for the fact that you were born, and I wouldn't be the smart, funny, and thoughtful person that I am if it wasn't for you. I think a lot of people appreciate that I'm a caring, heartfelt person, and I get all of my best qualities from you.
Well, sometimes I think you give me too much credit. But
Well,
yeah,
sure.
thank
I mean,
you.
Dad was funny. He was a smart ass. I get a lot of my humor from him, too. But I do think, my love of books and thrift stores and flea markets and so many, like the fact that I love art and.
I used to take you guys to the library all the time, so that was good.
I remember, and then you could, for like whatever, check it out for a month, you got to get like 4 or 5 books. I remember what a thrill it was to go to the library, and I could pick out any 4 or 5 books on any topic that I wanted. And I just cherished that. It was before the internet.
Yeah.
And then for a whole month, you had these books in your possession.
And everybody was reading, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful gift you gave me, Mom.
Thank you. But, so, I'm surprised that I lived this long. I'm a great-grandmother, have a great-grandchild, and that's a surprise. You
have a great-grandchild. Wow.
Yeah, she's a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I lived to know my grandmothers, but I didn't live to know my grandfathers much.
Cool.
The grandmothers lived longer than the grandfathers.
Well, I only knew your mother and Dad's mother, and that wasn't for very long. They both died when I was like 11 and 12. So, yeah, they didn't last long. Anyway, I love you with all my... Yeah, we almost had a happy ending. And then, okay, love your mother. And long may you run, everybody. And shalom, amigos, amigas. And thanks for doing this with me today, Mom.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
And happy birthday, Mom. And,
thank you.
And as they say in the Netherlands on your birthday, long may you live in the glory. Hip, hip.
Hooray.
Hurrah. I love you, Mom.
Thank you.
Tom Rhodes, you're a funny man. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedian. Tom Rhodes, karate kick, baby, oh yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're a groovy dude. You go all around the world, telling jokes to all of the people. You are an international comedian. You're funny to everybody in every single country in the world. Tom Rhodes, I like you very much. I think you're talented and very wonderful. Tom Rhodes, you're the best guy in the world. I wanna be your friend, you should call me sometime. Here is my phone number, 603-644-0048. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedic sensation. Tom Rhodes, I like to listen to your podcast. Tom Rhodes, you're the best man to ever walk on the earth.